Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am Reva, NICU travel nurse, and I know y'all are here because you want to know all the gems about what to look for in your travel nurse contract. So I'm not going to delay it. Let's just get straight to it, okay? Okay, so this is a travel assignment agreement that I have with a company that I've worked with. This is not my current assignment, but I'm going to go through this entire agreement with you guys and just point out everything that you should have in your contract, okay? So first things first, you want to make sure that your company's name, your name, the hospital's name, and your recruiter's name is on the contract, okay? I took off the company's name because this is a confidential document, so I took their name off of it. I did leave the name of facility on here just to give you guys an example, like the name and the address of the facility. You want to take note of where the facility is located because some medical facilities like Banner, Memorial Hermann, they have UCLA, they have several locations in one geographical area. So you just want to be pretty particular about where they're sending you to. So if they just put a vague name on there like UCLA, have them specifically state the location you will be at unless you know up front that you're going to be floating back and forth between locations. All right, so what was I saying? Oh, your recruiter's name needs to be on there also. That's kind of a given. Your recruiter is going to be your point of contact, so you want to make sure that their name is on there as well. Next up, you want to make sure that you have your start date, your end date on your contract, okay? So if your contract is 13 weeks, so for example, this one is 13 weeks, you want to go to a calendar and count out those 13 weeks from your start date. The reason why is because if it is in your contract for you to do 14 weeks, right? But you're thinking it's 13, guess what? You're doing 14 weeks. So do your due diligence, pull out that calendar, count all those weeks, make sure it ends at 13 or not 12 or 11, if that's what you're being contracted to do, okay? Don't get caught slipping. So the next you're going to want to know is your unit, the shift you are working, the hours, the duration of that shift, and how many shifts per week you will be working. All of those need to be in your contract specifically, okay? So in this contract, it definitely has this where I will be working 12-hour days in a NICU, and then I actually will have to scroll down a little bit, but it says it's 36 hours per week. All right. So all of those are in this particular contract. There's nothing really to like go in depth about it. It's pretty straightforward. You're either working 12s, 8s, 10s. You're going to work 3 12s, 4 8s, 5 8s, or 4 10s. You want to exactly focus on this in particular. Why? Because let's say you're looking at the pay and you're thinking it's for 3 12-hour shifts, but in all actuality, it's 4 12-hour shifts, okay? Don't get caught slipping, y'all. I'm telling you, these are mistakes that I've made before. I hope y'all don't make these mistakes, but make sure you read your contract. Your recruiter literally will just tell you if they're a shady one that you should have read your contract and you didn't. It's in black and white. You sign on a dotted line. Make sure you know what you're agreeing to, okay? I cannot stress this enough to new travelers. Read your contract, okay, people? Read it. My fave things to talk about is approved time off, okay? You're going to get this approved before you even interview with the facility, okay? So the manager should know, like, these are the days that you're requesting off, and they'll tell your company, like, yes or no, who approved that time. Make sure each and every single last date that you are requesting off is in your contract, because if it's not, guess what? They don't have to give you those days off. So if you don't want to be calling that a lot, make sure all of your requested days off are in your contract, all right? Oh, float. Floating is huge in the travel world because they will utilize you as float pool. Okay, so if you don't want to float, make sure it's written into your contract like no floating or only will float to like units. This particular contract, it was left blank. I'm not going to sit here and say that I assumed that I would not float because I had a discussion with the hiring manager, but I knew beforehand that where the places were that I would float. If I wanted to be particular, I would have made sure that they put it into my contract that stated I will only float to mom, baby, and take care of babies. Okay, so yes, you can absolutely have your company to put that in your contract that you will not float to such and such floor, or you will only float to certain floors. Okay, now don't get me wrong, your company might tell you absolutely not, immediately no, but that's up to you. You set your standards. You can move on to the next one. Just like we're about to move on to the next thing that you want in your contract. Well, this is a good one. We're talking about the money, honey. Okay. So your pay rate, so your hourly, your overtime, on call, call back, holiday pay, should be in your contract. I don't do on call or call back as a NICU nurse, but some of you who work OR, you will. So you want to make sure that those numbers look right. Okay. So hourly for this contract was $28.50. I know y'all saying like, oh my God, that is so low, girl. Like, that's what you're making an hour. We haven't gotten to those stipends yet. Okay. Wait a minute. And then my overtime rate is $80 per hour. I want y'all to focus on that for a minute. $80 per hour for my overtime rate when my hourly is $28.50. That math don't math, does it? Time and a half on $28.50 is not $80. That's because I don't want to get time and a half on that hourly rate. I want more in order for me to pick up OT. Okay? That's how I got $80 an hour, because I knew I was going to pick up more, or maybe wanted to pick up more. So they added in more money. Just be mindful that most companies are just going to do time and a half on your hourly rate. I'm going to be honest, if your stipends are maxed out, I wouldn't pick up any overtime. But to each his own, girl. You do you. I'm going to do me. And as for me, it's a no. I'm going to need a nice fluff to my OT in order for me to pick up. I can't really comment on on-call or callback. For whatever reason, I had callback in my contract, but I never needed it. Just know that it should be in there if you are in that type of specialty. All right. I don't do charge, but of course, they can have charge pay in there as well. In your guaranteed hours, you'll hear this often in the travel nurse community. Make sure you have guaranteed hours, because if you get canceled by a facility and get sent home for whatever reason, you will continue to get paid. So if I'm contracted for 36 hours for the week, but the census drops, the facility doesn't need me to come into work, they call me and be like, hey, you're canceled for the day. I have a free day, but I'm also getting paid to have a free day because I have guaranteed hours. Now, I'm going to tell y'all what I don't want to say I missed this. I saw this, but I didn't gripe about it, okay? In my contract, I'm going to scroll down. It specifically states in the cancellation policy that I can be canceled 3 shifts per 13 weeks. So during this entire 13 weeks, the facility can cancel me for 3 shifts, and I will not get guaranteed hours for those shifts, okay? I was okay with that. So I agreed to it. If you're not okay with it, do not agree to that. Okay, please don't. Moving along. Next one. Missed shifts. This is my one gripe about facilities, is the missed shifts penalty. Or not facilities, agencies. It's missed shift penalty. For this agency, they charge you $17 per hour that you miss. $17 every hour that you miss. Mind y'all, see, I'm making $28.50 an hour now. That's a good chunk of money. That's to deter you from calling off a lot, but it's ways around that. okay? And the one way around that is the facility actually cancels you. So if on your contract you say you didn't work certain 12 hours for the week and you put per facility cancellation, you won't get docked. And it states that in your contract as well, that if it's because of the facility being closed or any of those reasons, you won't get docked that 17 hours. But if you call out, you're going to get docked that 17 hours. There are some agencies that will not pay your stipends at all for the week if you miss one day. So please, please, please be mindful of that. Ask that question before you sign on the dotted line. Cancellation policy, like I told y'all, 3 shifts per week, per 13 weeks, and I could have been canceled, which I think I was canceled once. Holidays, it just says that I'm getting paid with the facilities holidays. All right, so this is something that a lot of people overlook, and that's because they aren't aware that for holidays, you can either pay by your agency's holiday schedule or the facility's holiday schedule. I was paid by the facility's holiday schedule. So the first thing I want to know when I got to that facility is, when are your holidays? What dates are your holidays? And for those days that I worked, I made sure that I wrote on my timesheet facility holiday, okay? Because I want my time and a half for those holidays that I worked, especially when it's facilities holidays and I need that money. Okay, stipends. So my housing stipends, meals and incidentals, those are going to be tax-free money. You aren't taxed on any of that. I already showed you how to look up where to find out how to max out your stipends. So if you don't remember, you need to go back to that video and look at it and check it out. Okay, here we go. Moving along. So it will break down for you how much you're getting in housing and meals and incidentals for your stipends on your contract. If it doesn't state that, you need to tell your recruiter to add it in there. And you also want to make sure that your stipends are maxed out. So once you go to the GSA website and take a look at it, then make sure those numbers align. I don't want to get into about how they do the 30 and 31 day month because it's kind of BS. Like, the number is the number. Moving on. But that's how this this agency breaks down the stipend. So I went with it. I didn't fight it. I just moved on. Travel. You will be reimbursed for travel up to a certain amount. For this contract, I was reimbursed up to $700 for the total cost of travel. So that is going to that assignment and coming back from that assignment. So the $700 means it's going to be split down the middle. So it'll give me $350 on the first check and $350 on my last check. Y'all, I'm going to tell you now, if you're going far, these travel reimbursements are not enough to cover the expenses you require when you're going to a travel assignment. In this instance, I went to DC and I was already in California. A flight from DC to California at the time was running about $500, right? That's one way. That's not round trip. So keep in mind, it will decrease your expenses for travel with the reimbursement, but it's probably not going to cover the entirety of it if you're going like cross country. It is what it is. You can bitch about it and ask for more. Good luck with that. Timesheets. You want to know when you are getting paid. So your contracts state when you're going to get paid, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. I've yet to find a travel company to pay someone bi-weekly. We all typically get paid weekly, and some of them will pay their travelers daily. This contract says that I'm going to get paid weekly. It also tells me that I need to record my time and submit it to them. That is super important because if you don't submit your hours to your company, they will not pay you. It's as simple as that. Some of them are even shady enough to where if the hospital sends you their hours, but you don't send them a timesheet, they still will not pay you. Eventually they will once you fight with them, but you don't want to get to that point. Just make sure you send in your timesheet. Even if it's not signed, just go ahead and send it in. And it's also something I did mention. When you're a traveler, they're going to ask that you have your timesheet signed by like a manager or charge nurse. You don't have to do that. Like if there's a timekeeping at your facility like Kronos, just log into Kronos, take a screenshot of your punches, and then write "See Kronos log" where your manager usually would sign, and attach that Kronos log when you submit your timesheet, and that's all you need to do. I'm telling you, make life easier for yourself instead of like asking them every single week for a signature. Just do that and move on. I've never had an issue, and I better not after posting this video. Once again, I say I get paid weekly by direct deposit, okay? If this says weekly by check, just know you're going to get something sent in the mail, so don't expect it to hit your bank account. It's as simple as that. Insurance. It will say if you're getting medical and dental insurance through your company or if you've waived all of those in your contract. I did not waive it on these contracts, so it says a traveler's cost because I am paying for it, even though it's through my company. That was that. Additional agreements. So in this other spot, that's where they're going to put any type of additional agreements that you have with your company in that spot. They may put your float in this other spot as well, like we'll float to all locations within a 60-mile radius. Or it will state if travelers required to float, we'll notify traveler prior to 2 a.m., 2 p.m. or something like that. But that's kind of where the other options comes in. All right, you want to make sure it's signed, people. Okay, you want to make sure that your contract is signed by yourself and your agency. That's how we make this thing valid. We sign it. Okay. It's like the expense report is literally the same thing. It's just breaking down the stipends. So it's just saying when my start date will be, when my end date will be, and again, it should be the 13 weeks. So you just want to make sure that those match the same dates that were in the beginning of the contract. And then it breaks down your meals and incidentals and your housing expenses. So this is the number that actually should reflect the GSA.gov website. If it doesn't, you need to give your recruiter some pushback and tell them to max out that number. If that is above the GSA.gov's website, then you want to make sure that your recruiter adjusts it, because if you go above that number, it puts you at risk of being audited by the IRS, and nobody wants that. All right, that's it. That's all that I have. If you have any questions, just put it down in the comment. I will be sure to take a look and answer those for you. As usual, like and subscribe to this channel if you want to continue to get more travel nurse tips, advice, or just see how I live my life as a travel nurse. Okay? Y'all have a great one. I will see you on the next one. Bye.